Hello, hello to anybody watching.
Hello.
And we've got Tyler here. So Tyler is, and we've also got Maya here as well. Maya's going to be in this video too. But we have Tyler here who moved to the Spiral. He's an amazing friend of mine and now a past client of mine. And we're here for him to share a little bit more about his journey before the Spiral, through the Spiral, and what has transpired since the Spiral. Thank you. And so, yeah, thanks for being here, Tyler.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I guess I'll just share a little back info. So Tyler went through the Spiral from February this year, which is 2021, 2022. Wow, time warp. Until June. And I guess Tyler, if you want to share a little bit about like where you were before the Spiral and how we met and how all of that kind of transpired.
Sure. Yeah, how we met. Well, we met at a random little like gathering of hippies doing sananga and having a little ecstatic dance in the park. And then I didn't see you again for like I think like 2, 3 months or something after that. And then I saw you again randomly at a little festival that a mutual friend of ours was having.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard that you were offering some sort of like energy clearing. And I was like, fuck yes. And I asked if I could take a part of your expertise, and you took me through this energy clearing thing, which was intense and profound, and like it was I think that's really like when there was a healing catalyst that happened within my life where I really started to want to go in deeper, and that's where it happened. I remember even after all that intense thing, like I hadn't done mushrooms and since I was 15, and I was always afraid of them because I had a really bad experience. Like when I was 15, I was like, no more. Then after I finished, you had a microdose. You said you should take these. I was like, after that experience, that's horrible. You're like, no, no, it's going to help you integrate.
Mm-hmm.
And I took them, and I remember it actually allowed me to really like feel the feels, really understand what just happened and what was going on, and like the messages that were really trying to come through, and to integrate it and let it go. Like take the lessons that those hard times taught me, but then let go of all the things that were holding me back, like the pain and suffering. And yeah, so and that's kind of where it began. And then I didn't see you again for like 6 months. But then the Freedom Rally was happening, and I was like, well, I got to go there. And the person who I was supposed to stay with canceled last minute, and so I was like, who do I know in Ottawa? I was like, I know Laura, but like, I wonder if she'll be cool. I mean, I haven't talked. We haven't really spoke that much. It's been 6 months. I'm like, Laura, I need to go to like the convoy. Can you let me stay with you? And you're like, fuck yeah, I'm going to the convoy too. I was like, sweet.
I'm like, you're allowed
And
to come for
then
3 days and then you're getting out. And then it turned
yeah,
into
three
five
days. It
days.
ended up being like a week.
Angelo.
Yeah,
We had tea parties at night. It was the best.
yeah. And then
What happened?
yeah, and then after that, like you saw, because we spent so much time together, I think you saw like there was still a lot of like inner struggle and turmoil. And like at that point in my life, I was at one of the lowest I've ever been. Like I was living in a place that was literally infested with rats and all types of different bugs. I had bites all over my body. Like these things would like run all over me at night. I was hearing like my next door neighbor would do this thing literally from sun up till sundown, where it's huh, 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 huh. That's all he do all day, all night. And my other next door neighbor would have conversations with herself where she would be like, is it okay? Everything? No, it's not okay. It's like the so I was not in the best place.
Yeah.
And I started to learn also the further I went into the spiral that your outside world tends to represent your inside world. What's going on around you on the outside really represents kind of like, yeah, like what's going on here and here. And so it makes a lot of sense because I was like, yeah, I was contemplating suicide again. I was just, yeah, like at a very, very low point. This is
Mhm.
also during COVID. So like this was when my entire family pretty much said, you're not vaxxed, you can't come, don't come to Christmas dinners, don't come to all this stuff. So I was in Kingston, I was completely alone. and it was bad.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you were picking up on that from us spending so much time together, and you offered the spiral. And you, at first, I was like, okay, you know, it sounds interesting. I was a little hesitant, but I believed in you, and because like being around you just for that short amount of time, I noticed a difference within myself. Right,
Mhm.
like I started to like feel a little better again. Where like there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. It was like taking me out of that reality that I was in with that horrible place and like putting me into a place where I saw like it's possible for you
Mhm.
to have this as well.
Yeah.
So then yeah, you offer the spiral. And then yeah, we kind of went through it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you so much for just your vulnerability and sharing all of that stuff. Yeah, it's been an interesting last couple of years, and there's so many situations that came up for a lot of people. So I think that that's really valuable just to see kind of your resilience with that, and then also the transformation that you've had, because obviously from where you were in the beginning to where you are right now is like a mega difference. And I'm super
Oh, yeah.
excited to get more into your experience going through the spiral, and then also kind of where you're at now. Because I remember doing your on your initial session, your intention was happiness. And I remember
Mhm.
thinking that it wasn't possible for you to be happy. And if you guys know Tyler now, or you watch like his stories, or you just know who he is the most joyful being ever. And it's been so incredible just to see that transformation that's happened within you. And obviously, this is not just from the spiral. Like Tyler dives in deep, and I will totally attest to that. Like he went all in with his journey throughout the spiral. And one of the things that I will commend you on is that you really leveraged me throughout the process. Like you were vulnerable, you shared so that I could pass other resources and provide other things so that you could really dig as deep as you could into your own process to come out on that other side. So really celebrating you for that. Um, yeah, I guess I'm curious to know like um, more about your journey throughout the spiral. Like what were the sessions like for you? Was there any hesitations that you had prior to? Um, and yeah, what was your overall experience moving through those sessions? What was it like for you?
So there was no hesitancy because, like I said, like you've always like put this air of trust, right? And like I think anybody that gets to know you, like they can attest to that, right? Like because you hold yourself to such high integrity, like it's very easy to trust you,
Okay.
right? So it's that made it a lot easier as well to be more vulnerable. And because I know for things like this, that's the only way that this stuff works is you just gotta lay it out.
Yeah.
And the more you're open, the more that the practitioner you're working with, the healer, like whatever modality they are using, it works so much better, like holistically for you.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, fuck it. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting that Maya's there. Oh,
That's
Maya,
okay.
I'm sorry. Oh,
He's used to it.
okay. So, oh, yeah, I was like, oh, I'm swearing like a truck driver over here, and there's
That's okay.
okay, I'll try to keep it a little bit more PG-13. um, yeah, so like initially, like I was hesitant because or not hesitant in it, but like I didn't really know about this thing, right? The
Yeah,
muscle
this
testing.
is magic.
Yeah, the muscle testing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like the more that I started doing like because it works the same with like the pendulum things too, right? And like
Now
it's
we've got
really
Tyler doing it himself, which is epic.
yeah yeah they're pretty interesting. Um, but the more that I just started to stop looking at the mechanics of the process and just be in the process itself, that's when I started to kind of see like a little bit of the magic, because like the questions that would be asked from these things were like the perfect questions, right? They were the things that like really helped kind of like bring stuff to the foreground that needed to be talked about, needed to be integrated, needed to be understood, right? And yeah, so like that part of it, yeah, that part of it was yeah, very interesting to see like how the two work, right? It's like it's a very this is a very like what's the word for it? Not calisthenics, the kinesiology,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
this is like a very kinesiology thing, right?
yeah.
And to see how like a science like that can still work in like the spiritual aspects of things as well. Yeah, that's neat to say.
Yeah, it's always interesting when I do these interviews with my male clients. It's usually like, it's more like the logical, like, yeah, like I didn't know how it worked, but it worked. Like, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how it worked, but it worked. And so what were some of your biggest shifts that you had moving through the spiral? And I know like we had some very powerful sessions where you had some really like
Ooh,
things come through.
yes,
Like awesome.
we had. So I remember the most powerful session we had, as you remember, was like when you did this Reiki thing on me, and like it was in like I don't know how to describe that one. So for just to describe for people that are watching, it was I've never had any of those past life regression things or any of that stuff like ever. And but when she did this, I remembered, or it seemed like I remembered, like a past life of like where I was drowning and I was holding on to a rock and I was holding on with my other arm to my wife and child. And the water was raging, and then they slipped from my hand, and I watched them die, and then I died, and that was like my last life. And I just had this boom, and it was like more real than I've felt like this kind of reality even sometimes. And it was fucking weird. It was really intense,
Yeah.
and it made a lot of sense. So it started to put a lot of things together, right? Of like why I am the way I am. Like I have knee jerk reactions to like women and children, right? Like I've always kind of had that pull for like to protect and to help. But to the point where like I'll put myself in detriment, right? And so like it's a good thing to have, but I realize now like it needs to be put in balance as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like it illuminated like a lot of things to me.
Yeah.
The spirit writing and all that stuff. It was insane.
And that,
And I've
so everybody knows as well, like because Tyler did them in person, we were able to combine a few modalities together. So that isn't technically with the spiral, but that was with other energy healing that I do as well. So
yeah.
and how did you find that coming through impacted your ability, like you said, how you kind of had that like protector piece, but it was getting to be a detriment? How did that experience for you shift things moving forward?
It definitely allowed me to look at relationships a lot differently of like the relationships I have, especially with women, right? Of to be like still be me and still have that protector instinct, but also know that like like I shouldn't martyr myself in order to protect everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And that you can't save everybody and that you can't protect everybody. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that some people don't want to be saved. Some people don't want to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, that was it's a good recollection.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the spiral in general, just like it helps to bring things up to the surface that like I didn't even realize that I still had questions about myself and like how I act and why I act the way I do in certain cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and the way I am acting, is it still serving my higher good, right? Or are there just old patterns that are continuing to be repeated that are going to keep me in the same, state that has not been serving me?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the spiral definitely helped with that,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and not really and not even necessarily the spiral. It's all being in your field. You do have this thing where like you're just able to like bring this amazing healing quality. It's very hard to explain, but your presence and the way that you ask the questions you do and the way that you move through things and move through the energy and like really tap into the person, it yeah, it's transformative. It's amazing. Like you can't teach that,
Thanks.
right? So it's no, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, because if it wasn't for that, then yeah, like I don't think I would have had the breakthroughs that I did have.
Mm-hmm. Tyler and I go back and forth on this. He's like, it wasn't the spiral, it's you. I'm like, no, it's the spiral. But I do understand that I have an intuitive gift to be able to pick up on things and help you go deeper. That's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And it's fully received. And so I guess you've had some big experiences in the past, like many other people, when it comes to relationships. And
Hmm.
some stuff that came up throughout really helped you throughout that process of bringing old parts of you back home so that you could start integrating all of these pieces. So you could start showing up in a different way, more confident and more certain with who you are as a person in general, but also in your relationships as well. So if you're open to just sharing a little bit more about that, that would be awesome.
Mm. Yeah, I was definitely starting to learn healthy boundaries, and that like it's okay to say no, right? And that by being your true authentic self, you're going to attract the people that you want in your life to begin with. And that when you're not your true authentic self, they're not even learning to like you, they're learning to like a version of you. Right. So if you truly do like these people or love them, you should be your true, true authentic self, because then they fall in love with you. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And those protective barriers and those shells are so normal because they're just there to protect us from past experiences, but we can't truly have fulfilling relationships or show up as our authentic self in relationship until we feel safe within ourselves and within our bodies so that we can
Hmm.
start bringing that authentic version to the world. So I'm
Hmm.
very happy that you started experiencing more safety within yourself so that you could and certainty within yourself so that you could start bringing that into your relationships. Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go grab my water.
Okay, let me pause this. Awesome. Okay, so we're back. So what have been your biggest shifts since moving through the spiral? Where are you
Hmm.
headed now that you've kind of been through this experience?
Well, like I said, like I was living in a like rat infested, like, you know, crack house essentially, or crack apartment, whatever you want to call it, in
Yeah.
Kingston, to like, you know, now I'm living in the in Kempville, in a very nice, amazing place, sharing my or sharing my space with a very amazing roommate. Right, he's like a brother,
Mhm.
and even like the people I surround myself with now, they're
Yeah.
all high vibing, you know, like really nice people. Like there's no, listen, I'm not saying if you do drugs that you're a bad person or low vibing. For me, like it attracts a different kind of like lifestyle that I don't really want to bring in my life anymore. So most of my friends, they don't really drink, right? They none of them really do drugs or anything like that. Like we do mushroom ceremonies, right? Or we'll like smoke weed, but
Mhm.
like there's nothing insane, right? And like the things that they're into too don't revolve around that. It revolves around like peace and love and unity and community and dancing and expression and you know, being good to each other and taking care of one another and taking care of yourself, like
Mhm.
trying to realize self sovereignty and having sovereign relationships,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And curious, Tyler, is that something that you were doing at that point where you were into doing drugs and numbing and coping with things outside of your life at that point?
A long time ago, that was a bit like, so I got rid of the hard drugs when I was like, I guess like doing them where I was like doing them constantly. It's in my 20s. But then like, you know, I was still that guy where like if you had a party, somebody busted out a few lines, I'd still do them.
Right.
But then that stopped probably because I so like I was living with two waitresses who worked at Hooters. And that kind of lifestyle there was probably the last time that I kind of really got into stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that like things like marijuana and alcohol, which I still did, still weren't being used to the same effect. And I
Mhm.
mean, alcohol is it's one of the worst drugs for you. Like if, comparatively of like what it does to your body and your body, like and your brain. And so yeah, I was definitely using that like a lot to cope.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing really is that as you continue to choose your sobriety, the outside world shifted, but it was you that was making those inner shifts and making those decisions for you that you wanted to experience something different in life. So you went on that journey to be able to do that. And then your outside world started shifting as you continued to go on that journey. Because like you've came from like it's been very drastic even since the time that I've known you, right? It's been massive.
Yeah, see, when it came to the realization that like the the more you heal yourself on the inside, the more it reflects not only your outside, but your outside world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that like you you attract what you are, where like energy attracts like energy. So if you're in a constant state of like, is Maya still around? Can she still hear us? So if
Yeah,
you're in a constant state of
busy
like,
with the crystals.
okay, sweet. If you're in a constant state of like, fuck the world, like this place sucks, like, oh my God, you're going to attract more people like that. And then they just feed into that story. So it's a synergistic cycle of just like nonsense and hate and low vibration.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start trying to change the inner road so that there's more peace and love within yourself, then you start to bring in more peace and love in your reality.
Exactly.
Right. So it's very interesting how like quantum physics does apply to that, right?
I freaking love
Yeah.
it. And that's really the spiral does. It clears out 22 different core emotions within the body, and anger, and like the lower vibrational ones, fear, anger, dogma, grief, guilt, all of those ones. As we clean them out, we slowly start shifting our vibration, our level of consciousness, which means that our perceptions change, the way that we start showing up change, everything starts shifting. And I know we were talking about this earlier as well, that as we ascend into these higher vibrational energies, the joy, the love, the peace, the fall is a lot greater when we have the fears.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sharing that with Tyler because I experienced that now, where it's like you're like completely out, but then it's like now it's like the shift is a lot quicker coming out. And so throughout your journey, I know you went through some of those big, deep, dark holes that you were in.
Mm.
If you're open to explaining a little bit more and sharing a little bit more about kind of your experience in those dark times, I know there are a lot of people right now that are moving through those dark times. And a lot of the time when we're in those, based off of all of the societal conditioning and the stigma and all of that stuff, we perceive that it's not normal for us to be there. And it's normal in society for us to be there, yet we tend not to talk about it. So then we end up hiding in shame, and then things just keep getting worse. So if you're open to it, how was that for you, being able to be held through that 4 months, 5 months when you moved through it? Because Tyler went through it one-on-one. Throughout that time, to have that support as you were moving through those, so that you could have other resources and just encouragement and support through that time.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to pause this just so I can get into this, and I'm going to let the dog in.
Okay.
This way, yeah, sorry. Ready?
Okay, this is real life here, folks.
So, yeah, so just because you're going on your healing journey doesn't mean like everything negative in your life and your habits stop. So even while I was going through the spiral, I continued to drink, and there were times when like it got bad, and like it was I was still going through some dark stuff. And if anything, spiral at first it was very triggering, right? Because like it brought up stuff that like you didn't even realize still needed to be brought up. And yeah, like there was it was almost like there was a part of myself that didn't want to be healed, so it was lashing out, and it even lashed out at you a few times. And even when it did, you were just like, Tyler, I can hold your dark. As much as you want to lash out, I can hold your dark. And I'd still just be like, yeah, well, fine, fuck. But yeah, but like it got very dark. It got very like my inner journey, that whole dark night of the soul thing, like when you go in and you start really remembering things and you start really feeling the feels, things like doors that were like locked for such a long time, it's intense. And there's days where I didn't leave the house, days where I just be crying, days when I just like I couldn't even get out of bed, right? And like my story before is that even before I went on this journey, like I tried to kill myself I think 3 or 4 years before I did the spiral there. And I just been bounced around from hospitals and stuff, right? Going from one to the next, just because like nobody could figure out why I was so depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, because And so yeah, like going from those really dark times, and you start to remember them again.
Mhm.
And so yeah, but then being able to go into things like even the recover and rise thing that I was doing at the beginning, finding my logs, finding out like what I can do to ground into myself when those things happen. Because normally when I start feeling those deep emotions, go to alcohol. Because I'm like, fuck that, I don't want to feel this. I'm gonna drink that so I won't feel that.
Yeah.
But then when you start to realize that you can just ground into yourself and that you can just breathe, be with it, right? And then really start to instead of just having it just be this chunk inside of you, you have a relationship with this chunk now, right? This thing that feels like a big block. And then you start to ask it questions. And as you're asking it questions, as you have a relationship with it, you start to chip it away. Mm-hmm. And then yeah. And I also lost a ton of weight where every time it felt like I healed something, it's like there was a piece of me that was just like it was like a literal yeah, like I healed, and then there was like a chunk of trauma that just was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you find that you are now? Because obviously the June, July, August, September, October, November, you're 5 months out of going through your spiral journey. How do you find it now? How is it different from when you first initially had that heaviness come up, your reaction to it, opposed to now being more responsive to it? Like, what is the shift that you experience with how you now process that stuff now? Because you build a tolerance to it when we allow this stuff to come up in a safe space, we start building a relationship with it. So when it comes up, we don't try to run from ourselves anymore. Mm-hmm. So how has it been with your relationship with alcohol, and what do you now go to instead? And what's the process now like for you when you have stuff come up?
Don't get me wrong, I didn't quit drinking it, but now I have a different relationship with alcohol. It's like I will drink for a celebration, right? But I have made a rule that it's like I will never, ever, ever drink when I'm in a bad place. Because if I'm in a bad,
that's huge. You know how many people really wish that they could have that relationship with alcohol? Massive, Tyler.
Yeah, well, because I enjoyed. I don't like getting drunk so much anymore, just because I'm 37 and I recover from a hangover. I recover from minor surgery faster than I do a hangover. Yeah. So but I do enjoy an occasional drink. But I know that it's one of those things that it matches the vibration that is inside of you at that current moment. If you're in a high vibing place and you have a drink or two, it'll probably just add to that. But if you're in a low vibing place, it's just gonna sink you right the fuck down. And then you just get that recycling cycle of pity and regret and self-hate and all this stuff, right? And then you wake up, your body feels gross, you feel gross, and then it's literally just putting poison inside of you at that point. Mm-hmm. So no, now what I'll normally do is honestly take a bath and I'll do this green tea bath thing, and then I'll put Epsom salts in.
Tell them the story with the turmeric. This is a funny story.
The turmeric. Okay, well, so I'm
Wait, before you get into that, I want to share what I heard there was the biggest thing with your relationship with alcohol is now you do it consciously and with intention.
Well, and that's with everything I've learned now too, is that you can do the two or you can do the same thing, but you can do it two different ways depending on your intention, right? So when you set intention for it, it changes everything. And again, that's also a quantum physics thing, right? But yeah, if you change it here, in your mind, that I'm doing it for this reason, yeah, it's a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now instead you use baths.
I use baths. I freaking love my baths. Yeah. Right. But I do my baths with a breath work thing and I kind of my bathtub is my spaceship. I go places there, man. And yeah, I also knew that I grew as a person when instead of having a bottle of vodka in the freezer, now I have a big bag of ice. So that if I ever did have that moment of like panic attack, I'm gonna have an ice bath, right? Jump into that freaking ice bath. That is number one thing to kind of get you out of that zone.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So healthy shifts, different ways of having your needs met.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's massive.
Oh, the turmeric bath. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was because I'm a big proponent of having like tonic baths, right? Like chamomile or lavender or green tea, and they all have different effects. But so I was really sick one time, and I had no like medicine, but I had a bunch of turmeric. So I was like, well, I know it has healing properties, so like I'm gonna like just dump a bath into this thing. And so I went in, I dumped like a big like a lot of turmeric. And I'm bathing. It feels great, right? I'm doing that, and then okay, feeling good. I mean, like I smell like soup, but like I feel really good. And then I get out, drying myself off. The fog on the window fades, and then I look, and I'm like, oh shit! Ow. I look like Donald Trump's hair from head to toe. I look like an Oompa Loompa. Like it was horrible. It was like jaundice, and it lasted for like almost a week.
I was dying when he
But
told me this.
but
And
I
literally
felt
like, oh my God, I wish
better.
you took a picture.
But I felt better. Like the next day, I wasn't sick, but I still couldn't leave the house really.
Yeah. Moral of the story with everything is the healing journey is messy and there's no one way. There's
Hell
no
yeah.
one route. Everybody's healing journey is so unique and so perfect for whatever you're experiencing moving through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Tyler. So where are you headed now? Obviously, you are a completely changed person. Your intention coming into it was to receive, to feel happy. Now
Mm-hmm.
you are like such a joyful person and you're so purposeful and intentional and more conscious about what you're doing and like you have vision for where you're headed. So where is it that you're headed now and what are you most excited about since moving through this journey?
I think now, yeah, I am headed to abundance. That's kind of like this where this train's going. And I'm gonna be working with you. So it went from this random hippie chick that I met at like an ecstatic dance in Lakefield to a business partner.
Yeah. Been an
So
incredible.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about all that.
Mhm.
And it's not even for the spiral. We're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anything she touches, it turns to gold.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah. Okay. Well, I would love to just celebrate you. I don't know. There's been so many shifts from what you shared, and I know there's like probably a shit ton that you haven't even shared that are all a part of your own inner journey. And I just want to celebrate you for choosing to say yes to yourself and for choosing to say yes to moving through all of this with me. And I'm very grateful for you. And I'm just so proud of you for the whole journey that you've been on. And I'm super stoked with where things are headed. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, same. And yeah, I want to celebrate you too. Like, thank you so much. Like, thank you for taking the time to learn all these different modalities and put it into this like very unique, you know, Laura Plahuta driven way. And it's it was a beautiful experience getting to know you and being able to be a part of something that like just yeah, like again, I I put faith more into you, but through you and the spiral, there's definitely some big shifts, and so yeah, like thank you very much, and I'm very grateful.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Is there anything else that you want to share as like a last kind of note before we end this off?
Last note, um, hmm, I'd say one of the things that has always served me in life is that sometimes you have to jump and grow your wings on the way down. So for those that are going to participate in this, I say participate, but go all in. If you want it to really work, go all in, be vulnerable, cry, do what you got to do. Guys, like wear your heart on your sleeve with her, and just know that she'll hold it, and that you're in a safe and respectful environment.
Yes, thank you so much, Tyler, for that. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this, thank you,
No
Tyler.
problem. And yeah, you can add me on the Instagram there. And if you want to ask me questions as well, feel free.
Yeah. What's your handle on Instagram?
Tyler M like Michael, W like William, George.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's perfect. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Tyler.
Thank you.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.